Okay, awesome. Good evening. I am Reverend Sherry James, and this is the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. And you are here because you know that there is something more to your experience, and you mean to have it. Now, tonight we are working with Neville Goddard. Your faith is your fortune, and we're working with the chapter number 3 called The Principle of Truth. The Principle of Truth, and it is a powerful, powerful chapter. Really, really excited about this lesson and what it holds for us. And I just say, have some fresh ears and get ready to hear something that I think will make a difference for you. So we've got opening prayer. We're going to talk about the question, do you know the truth that sets you free? He gives that explanation in the second paragraph right after the verse, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And then we're going to talk about how to know the truth that sets you free. We're going to talk about some techniques and things that you can do to know the truth that sets you free. The Bible Hangout is so important to me. It is, no matter what's going on in my life. I know I sound a little nasally, but this is probably an indication of like what the Bible Hangout means to me. It's so important for me to pass this truth on, to share this, to do for you what Reverend Mary did for me, which is to give you a hope for a far greater future than you may have imagined for yourself. And it was summer 1998, so 20 years ago, almost. Yeah, well, it would be this summer, be 20 years ago that I first heard her preach. Now, I had been in truth for probably, I don't know, a year or so before I went to this national conference for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And I didn't know who Reverend Mary was. I had no awareness of her, but she got up to speak. And I was so disappointed because I thought, I'm not going to get to hear Johnny. I came to hear Reverend Johnny. I did not come to hear whoever this Reverend Mary is. So I said, whatever, I can learn from anybody. Let me hear what she has to say. And I tell you, this woman opened her mouth and I have never been the same. It changed me at my core. It shifted how I saw myself. It shifted what I believed was possible. It literally began the change in my career back at that point. And I had just gotten out of film school, spent all this money on a very expensive private film school. And that sermon that she gave literally changed my life. So I feel like on some level, I'm always chasing those coattails to be that impactful for other people. And so that's why, even though I'm nasally, I'm sniffly, and you might see me blow my nose, and hopefully it won't be too gross, I have to be available for Thursday. I have to make the day happen. It's that important to me. And the movie that I always use, because I do have a movie background, my degree is in motion picture producing, my master's degree is the movie Inception. And I love this movie on so many levels. But the reason I talk about it in relation to the Bible Hangout is that it is about the idea of planting a single idea in the mind of another person. And the idea that I want to give to you and that I want you to really take in and internalize is that you are divine, that you're not just this fleshly body, but that you are more than what meets the eye. Because I know that if you get that, it will shift everything. It'll be like a domino effect in your entire life. And things that weren't working out for you before will begin to work out for you. It will change the way that you move through life. And so my intent is to sell you on your divinity. The Bible Hangout is free. It always will be, but it does cost to produce. And so if this is a blessing to you and you want to see this carried forward, then consider making a gift. And a gift of any size is greatly appreciated. And you can make your donations right at revsherry.com. It's made via PayPal, and I thank you in advance for your support. It does make a difference. I am available to work one-on-one, and I only have 2 slots available right now to work, 2 slots left to work with clients. And so if that is something that you're interested in and you want to get that kind of support, then please reach out to me. Let's chat, let's talk, and let's see if we are a good fit for one another. I don't work with everyone. I cannot work with everyone. And so we will have to, really see if we're suitable for one another, because I care about success. And so I care about knowing that I can be successful with you. And so if you're interested in going to the next level in any area of your life, then I encourage you to come be a part of it. The scripture for this series is, therefore I tell you, Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And that's Mark 11:24. And so let's just take a moment to just relax, because this is a powerful lesson, and I believe that you're going to change before your own very eyes. And so I just give thanks to God for the change that I know is going to happen in you. And I give thanks for the praise for God that is going to come from what you hear tonight, and the worship for God that I know that's going to come from what you hear tonight. And I just ask for the present awareness to really embody this lesson and to share it and to pass on the good word that God has given me to share with you. In the name and nature of Jesus, I affirm that this is so. And so it is. And amen. So do you know the truth that sets you free? Do you know the truth that sets you free? So the verse that this references, and you all know the verse, is John 8:32. John 8:32. And what this verse says is, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. We've got a couple of comments. I'll just read. And what the Neville explains this. He starts it's the first chapter, and he says, the truth that sets you free is the knowledge that your consciousness, we've talked about what that is. That's the formless you that can see without eyes, hear without ears, speak without a tongue, feel without the aid of hands and feet, and smell without a nose. This is the you that has the ability to perceive without the use of organs, that you can bring to mind. This you operates through your own human imagination. He's saying that the truth that sets you free is the knowledge that this part of you, this intangible, formless part of you, is the resurrection and the life. This is the truth that sets you free. That when you get that, the part of you, that the non-physical part of you that can do all that the physical part of you can do and beyond, and has no limits, that when you recognize that it is your resurrection, it's your means for resurrecting anything in your life that's now dead. It is your means for giving life to what now may not have life, have activity in your life. That your consciousness, that this I am part of you, this is the name that we give it. This I am part of you both resurrects and makes alive all that you are conscious of being. That the way that you work with this I am is that you become conscious of being whatever it is that you want to bring into expression. So if you are looking to manifest more money, then you become conscious of yourself as a wealthy person. You begin to see yourself as a wealthy person in such a way that it is true and that it doesn't force you to disagree with yourself. Sometimes you can say an affirmation like, I am rich, and then it brings up all the energy in you that feels like, you lying. Look at that bill over there that you can't pay right now. So there is a way to become conscious of being that which you are now not conscious of being. There's a way to become more than what you are, to transcend where you are. And this last sentence, and I think this is powerful, is that apart from consciousness, apart from I am, right, there is neither resurrection nor life. Apart from I am, there is no resurrection and there is no life. So it is when you recognize the I am of your being that resurrection and life are available to you. And he's saying this is the truth that sets you free. And as before, I always ask, feel free to ask questions throughout that helps guide the conversation. It also helps me to know that I'm sharing with you in a direction that you want to move in. So your consciousness is the resurrection and the life. As I was reading this, what dawned in me is that crucifixion and resurrection take place daily in your consciousness. Every moment of every day, you say yes to something and you say no to something else. And so every yes resurrects and every no crucifies. Every yes resurrects and every no crucifies. Every yes and no is not a verbal yes or no. Sometimes we are saying no to things that might be beneficial to us because of something else that we're saying yes to. Very simply, we may be saying yes to foods that taste good to us, but in choosing foods based on taste versus their nutritional value for the body, we're essentially saying no to the health of God that is our birthright. So every no crucifies, every yes resurrects. But it's to realize that every yes and no is not a verbal yes or no. Sometimes the yes and the no are behavioral. I think I have a question. Alita says, I read Abraham Hicks yesterday that says to hold a thought for 17 days without contradiction. It works. 17 seconds. It works. Yes. 17 seconds. Absolutely. That it doesn't take much to manage the mind, but it takes persistence to get the mind to do to train the mind. It doesn't take a lot to move the mind because, like you said, if you hold a thought for 17 seconds, you will drop whatever else was trying to get your attention. But where the rubber meets the road is when you're not consciously managing your mind. Where is your mind going? I've shared this with you guys before. Several years ago, we did one of our Lenten seasons. We did a book called Daily Abundance. And so we made these, we do a bracelet every year. And so the bracelet for that year was I am abundant. And there was a weekend in the course of Lent where I had some money going out of my account and some expected money coming in. And I was concerned that they were going to miss one another and that potentially there would be a bounce check. So prior to this weekend, I was working with the affirmation. I said, I'm just going to do this affirmation every hour on the hour from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 50 times every hour. And so I would set my alarm and then I would do the affirmation, I am abundant, 50 times. If I was in a room full of people, I'd still do it, but I just do it quietly. So no one would necessarily know what I was doing. They just see me fiddling with the bracelet on my wrist, and I would essentially be quietly affirming, I am abundant, I am abundant. What I noticed when I got to the end of the day of the weekend was I realized that in between when the alarm would go off, that I would literally at the end of every hour be pulling myself out of this level of anxiety around whether or not there's money coming in and the money going out, we're going to miss one another. And as I thought about it further, I realized that the only reason that I even noticed that I had that level of anxiety about it is because I had an alarm clock that I was setting my phone that was reminding me every hour on the hour to basically do the affirmation. And so sometimes we have a no that's happening in our consciousness that we're not even aware of. And given the way that my day normally goes, where it's always, packed from end to end with activities, and I've got all kinds of things that are like on my to-do list, it just would have been this low-grade anxiety running in the background. So sometimes we're saying yes to things that we don't even realize we're saying yes to. Now, what guides that yes or no? What guides that yes or no is the truth that you know. We guide the yes and no power of consciousness by the truth that we know. And I always use a cell phone because these cell phones get more and more complicated as the days go by. I've got fun. This phone was bought in, 2014. And so I've got, functions on this phone that even since 2014 that I don't know how to use. And as I was writing the blog post, something said, just Google, features of this phone. And so I Googled the features of the phone, and I didn't know how to do any of the stuff that they said were like the hidden features of the phone. And so I do a little bit more than just make phone calls. I'm not, just with a smartphone where I'm doing phone calls. But for all the things that I use the phone for, none of them were on this list of hidden features. And so this is what I mean by every yes and no is not verbal, that sometimes is behavioral, is that the truth that I don't know is not, I can't give a yes or no on it. And or let me back up. I can't give a yes to it. So by default, I give a no to it. So even though, I mean, some of the things that these things said, they said, I'll tell you one of them because I thought it was fascinating. So I'm pulling up the article right now. You can do a link preview, like when you're looking at text messages. What? You can put the voice recorder on the phone in what they call meeting mode, and it can go in 8 directions. So if you have a meeting and 8 people are talking, it will sense the direction from whence the person is talking. And even though it won't know the names of the people, but it'll indicate the different voices as it records. What? There were other things like that. So it's not the truth that sets you free. This is from a sermon that Reverend Mary gave. It's the truth you know that sets you free. It's not the truth that sets you free. It's the truth you know. Now, there are different levels of knowing. There is a level of knowing where you're just aware of something. But I believe that when you know something, you do something. That when knowledge moves to the level of knowing, you act on that knowledge. For example, you know to look both ways before you cross the street. All of us past the age of 15 or 16, or probably younger, but you know to look both ways before you cross the street. And even if you are engaged in the cell phone or a deep conversation or whatever, that you will stop at the curb and do a cursory glance left and right to see, okay, is it safe to cross? Because you know to brush your teeth. So even when you get to your doorstep and you don't remember whether or not you have brushed your teeth, you do a quick gauge to even check. It occurs to you to check because you know. So sometimes we can have truth that we are aware of. We're aware that we're spiritual beings. But there's a difference between when you're aware that you're a spiritual being and when you know that you're a spiritual being. It changes how you operate. It changes where your mind goes, regardless of what the stimuli is, but especially when the stimulus is some kind of negative thing. You want to give life only to the ideas that expand you. So it's not just know that your consciousness is the resurrection and the life of all that expresses in your life, but then you got to choose. You really have to choose to resurrect and to give life to ideas that expand you. And so you only want to give life to ideas that expand you, that are special for you. This is, and that you want to see expressed in your life. So what he says is that Jesus discovered this glorious truth and declared himself to be one with God, not the God that man had fashioned, for he never recognized such a God. Jesus found God to be his awareness of being, and so told the man that the kingdom of God and heaven were within. So it essentially, when Jesus is declaring his oneness, that what he is doing is he's saying that I'm going to become consciously aware of this aspect of me. I'm going to become consciously aware of this part of who I am. I just got a request for a link. Let me send that. There, you have to wait. Okay, put it right there. Yeah, let me finish.
I want to watch the iPad.
Okay, you can tell Mike. Okay, thank you. Please go tell Mike. Thank you. What do you need? Go ahead, baby. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, honey. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay. There it is. Okay. All right. I just sent the link. So you have to begin to ask yourself what are the ideas that you are giving life to, because what you pay attention to, you give life to. And so that's another way that every yes and every no that we give in consciousness is not verbal. Some yeses and some no's, some yeses, and some no's are behavioral, meaning that it catches our attention. Now, there was a video that was put out by the Reverend Ike Legacy that I thought was powerful. That said, "Is what you're fascinated by killing you?" That sometimes we can become so fascinated by the wrong things that they are essentially destroying our lives. So we become fascinated by poverty and we get all involved. I know you've read studies or heard stories of doctors who studied a serious disease, and in studying the disease, they end up contracting the disease because whatever you are paying attention to impresses itself upon you. And so, what I am recommending is that you become conscious of the love that you want. The iPad is downstairs. It's on the kitchen table. Let Michael give it to you. You become okay, but he's got to open it up for you. Become go ahead. Become conscious of the love that you want. Notice the joy that you expect. Begin to flow energy to the peace that you desire. And this is powerful. So to rise in consciousness to the level of the thing that you want, and then to stay there until such a level becomes your nature, is the way of all seeing miracles. So it's similar to what Alita just said, where she talks about Abraham Hicks and holding this thought for 17 seconds. And in doing that, you can literally shift the energy in your mind that not just hold it for 17 seconds, but you continue to expand the level of time that you can spend with an idea. So if you take the idea of love and you hold the idea of love and you get your time up to say 20 minutes of just sitting in love, just being in that space, that eventually what begins to happen is that starts to become your dominant way of being, your dominant thinking. And so this verse, it says, "And if I be lifted up, I shall draw all men unto me." The I that is being lifted up is your consciousness. The I that's being lifted up is the non-physical part of you. And when you lift it up to the level of consciousness that you're seeking, that you're wanting to hold on to, that this consciousness becomes it begins to become you. And so you put yourself in the dream car, the dream house, the dream lifestyle. And the thing is that you don't have to take my word for it. That you can just do it. Pick something that you want to focus on, that is important to you, or that you can believe in. And then I like timers. I have my little trusty timer. Hold on. I'm trying to send this ID to her. 201. Okay. That you set your timer and then you just sit in that space and simply be in the realization of the thing. And what you don't concern yourself with is how it's going to come about. How it's going to come about is not any of your business. How it's going to happen is not what is The scripture from Proverbs chapter 16 says, a man's heart plans his way, but it's God that, or the Lord, that gives the answer of the tongue. It's when you sit down and you make the plan, but it's God that determines the how. You make the plan. You say, God, I want to go to Mount Everest. I want to climb Mount Everest. God figures out the way for you to do that. But your job is to lift up the consciousness to the place where you are the realization of what it is that you say you want to be before you become it. Before you become it. Unless the Lord builds a house. This is that verse. Unless you have actually developed the consciousness to have what you are seeking, you may get it, but you will not be able to keep it. Now, I had an experience last night where I was sitting with someone who is important to me, and just kind of sharing some things that I'm working on in the ministry, and some of the plans that we have to honor the legacy of our founder, and just, you know, kind of some forward-looking things. And I don't even remember how this came up. I'm not even sure how this came up. But this person proceeded to just insult me pretty badly. Opened the door for it, said, you know, I basically want to tell you about yourself. You know, can you hear this? And I said, okay, I'm not sure what I'm about to hear. And this person begins to just go in on me on my limitations, my weaknesses as a preacher, and a whole host of other things. And then tops it all off with a warning like, you know, you're going to have to deal with this. And so I'm just sitting there taking it in, because my job is to be a student and not be the one that knows everything in the room. But if I'm telling the truth, what he said stung. What he said stung, and really, it hurt. It hurt. It hurt. And it just, you know, I left, you know, finally got out of the house. I left and I came home. I put Jordan to bed. But before I closed my eyes, I just started to work on forgiveness. To the degree that I could, I just started to work on forgiveness, and to at the time it was just words. I'm at a different place now with the feeling of forgiveness. And I went to sleep on, I forgive him, I release him, I bless him, I forgive him, I release him, I bless him. I went to sleep on that. And I got up, and the first thing that occurred to me when I got up, because I was still in the energy, was like, okay, let me just sit down and get to my morning meeting with my indwelling Christ, my chief spiritual officer, to sit down with my chief spiritual officer. And I wrote down a thing I knew I needed to work on him. So that was on the agenda of what I was going to work on. And before I even got into the prayer, right, that before you call, I will answer, I was reminded that what determines my future is this meeting that I'm having right now with my CSO. Not what somebody else outside of me thinks about me. That what determines my future is working with the CSO of my being to accomplish what the CSO wants to do through me. And so my future does not lie in the hands of another person's opinion of me. Does not lie in the hands of another person, but it lies in the hands of what I do in my morning meeting. And that I spend that time, take it back downstairs, okay? This is an interesting night. Let me embrace this change. I am not sure what this is Mommy, go tell Mike to do it, baby. Okay? Mike? No, go downstairs and tell Mike to do it, okay? Go now. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to embrace this. This is going to be a different kind of class. I got interruptions coming from everywhere, from the phone, from the child. All right. All right, God, I'm taking in this moment. When I left his house and the insults that had been launched at me, and who knows, I'm sure in his mind he was well meaning. I had to do something with that energy. I could sit in the space of being indignant. I could sit in the space of feeling hurt, or I could begin to transform that energy. And so what I began to realize is that my future does not lie in his hands or in his opinion. My future lies in every morning I get up and I work with my CSO. This is a non-negotiable. And over time, I am building myself into a force of nature where I am unstoppable and indomitable. And then I also realized that the people who criticize you while you're on your way up to the top are the same people that when you get to the top will say, I always knew she was special. And so you cannot get distracted. That what you're learning to do with your I am is to master your energy. That when you get distractions from every direction, that you begin to laser focus your energy and get back to what's important. And so I cannot afford to get caught up in my feelings, because getting caught up in my feelings interrupts my momentum. He says you cannot serve two masters, you know that verse, or here's the modern English version of that, or opposing states of consciousness at the same time. This is such an important statement to me, because the reason that I immediately went to forgiveness is because I cannot both rise in consciousness and dwell in the negativity that was thrown in me. I'm going to have to choose. I had to move out of the space of feeling indignant and into the space of feeling loved and appreciated and feeling a sense of forgiveness. And the thing is that the feeling of being insulted and degraded will master me if I let it. It will master me. So I had to consciously take my attention from one state, which is feeling insulted, feeling like I had been kicked in the teeth, and give it to a more desirable state, which is feeling appreciated. And the truth, I may have to forgive this man. It may take several days to forgive him, to just kind of really, really work it through my consciousness. But as I keep pulling my attention from one state, which is that feeling insulted, feeling put down, and give it to the preferred state, which is feeling loved, feeling appreciated, that I will kill the state of feeling put down, and I will resurrect the feeling of being appreciated and loved. And so you continue withdrawing, taking that energy away, that as he comes up, and because it comes up in your spirit, I'm back in the room, I'm back sitting at the dining table where the insults were lobbed. That feeling doesn't get to master me. So I'm constantly withdrawing my energy and giving it to the feeling of appreciation, which is what I want manifested in my life, which is what I want shown in my life. Okay. Constance says she has no audio. Does anybody else have that? Does anybody else have that? Tell me if we got audio. And Phyllis says, Rev, always remember you are in the image and likeness of God, and that is your true image. He is perfect, and so are you. So are you. There is no separation in God, and we are one. Okay, great. So we have audio. So Constance, it may be something on your end with the audio. But it definitely is. Okay, great. She has audio. Okay, awesome. So, Phyllis, and I thank you for your comment, Phyllis. I'm glad you said that. Sometimes, listen, I'm a work in progress. Let me say that. So, I did not always, and this is literally my next slide, I did not always move to forgiveness as quickly as I did last night. And it would be great to tell you that when I hear the insults or when I hear comments or whatever, that they just roll off my back like water on a duck's back. No, sometimes that stuff stings, especially if it's somebody that is meaningful to me. This is not a random person off the street making this comment. This is someone in a relative position of authority who is making what is a pretty damning assessment. So, I think that we really have to be mindful in truth that we don't close ourselves off to our emotions, and that we're honest with the way that we feel. Not that we sit in those feelings, right? Because that's part of what I'm going to talk about right now. Not that we sit in those feelings, but that when they come up, we don't run away from those feelings. And so what I realized is in reflecting on him and working on this post today is that I haven't always moved to forgiveness as quickly as I did last night. Because last night it was, I know what to do. Because as soon as I got home, got this child on the bed, it was like, all right, I forgive you, I release you, I bless you, and began to give words to it. In the past, I have stewed in feeling insulted, spent days feeling badly about things that people have said about me. And I thought I had to feel that way. I didn't know what to do with that energy, right? And I didn't realize that stewing in those feelings was what actually kept it alive for me, right? I couldn't see in the moment that replaying the experience in my mind was a mental rehearsal that controlled how I saw the world. And Neville writes, he says, you cannot see how it would be possible to express that which you desire to be by so simple a law as acquiring the consciousness of the thing desired. The reason for this lack of faith on your part is that you look at the desired state through the consciousness of your present limitation. The reason that I immediately ran to forgiveness last night, as opposed to what I have done in the past, is that I realized that as long as I'm looking at life from the lens of the insult, I cannot see a world where I can quickly move beyond the insult, forgive it, and forget it. That type of mental toughness seemed impossible of achievement. Today, I know that it is not. That even in the midst of feeling emotionally bruised, even in the midst of being kicked emotionally, that I can begin to speak the words of forgiveness. And as those words play in my heart overnight, I woke up this morning with the realization that no opinion of me determines my success. And if I keep showing up every morning, because this is the slight edge. The slight edge is that what you do every day is what you become. If I keep showing up every morning, working with my CSO, talking to God, walking with God, having a conversation about what God wants to do through me, getting nugget by nugget by nugget by nugget. One, I steal the energy out of whatever was thrown at me. But two, I begin to develop momentum in the direction that I want to go. The very people who judge you will be the same people that when you get to where God is taking you will want to know how you did it. So you don't have to see the whole truth to reach for it. You don't have to see the end of the forgiveness process to begin to reach for the forgiveness process. That you can begin right where you are, begin to speak those words and bring them into expression. Hold to that, reach for it, insist on it. Now, you can't straddle the fence. He says one of the first things you must realize is that it is impossible in dealing with this law of consciousness to put new wine into old wine skins or new patches on old gardens. Basically, you can't take any part of the present consciousness into the new state. I cannot be both feeling insulted and put down and feeling loved and appreciated. I'm going to drop one of them. There's no room set in a mindset where you feel appreciated and you express appreciation for feeling insulted and put down. Those two things, they can't walk together. They don't agree. They don't agree with one another. And so you're going to have to get down off of the fence. Choose which side you're going to be on and then live on that side. The truth is that you're already living on one side of the fence. Question is, do you know which side of the fence that you're on? And have you consciously chosen to be there? So one of the things that I did, and I did this before I did today's walk, of course I've been doing this for a couple of days now, is that I use this technique that he has where you work with just the I am statement. And it's a method for detaching from where you are and identifying with the formless, faceless good that you are. And once you are sufficiently detached, then anchoring yourself to the state of mind that you want to be a part of. So I use a timer when I do stuff like this, because if I don't, for me, you don't have to necessarily use a timer. But when I use a timer because it helps my mind slow down. It's one of the things I do to help my mind slow down so that I can focus a little bit better. Because I guess if my mind knows that it's only going to go on for 5 minutes, it's like, all right, I'll let her be for 5 minutes. So using a timer, I set it for 5 minutes, and I would just inhale. I am. And I'm just going through this. I am. And I try to push all the air out and then breathe in gently and then push all the air out. What I'm seeking to do in that space is that I don't put anything behind I am, because I don't want to condition it. What I'm trying to get to is the formless void. I'm reaching for that formless, faceless good that is the truth of who I am. There comes a point in this where he talks about it like a feeling of floating. That's what you're going for, that feeling of floating, where you're just detached. You're detached from that state. Now, I have never personally experienced the sensation of floating, but my mom, who is trained in TM and she's just a better meditator than I am, has achieved that. So I know it's possible. What I get is I get a feeling of just peace, a sense of peace. But he talks about floating, so I wanted to honor what he had in the book. And as you're sitting in that space where you have identified with the formless, faceless good that you are, then you anchor yourself to where you want to go. And so that might look like, I am peace. I am peace. And again, you're anchoring yourself to the new state of consciousness. So you have pulled yourself away from where you want to be. You completely drop the energy of where you are. And you have picked up the energy of where you want to go. This is a process by which you can transform your entire world, where you're constantly withdrawing the attention from what you don't want and giving it to what you do want. You don't have to stay in any state. You don't have to hold on to any condition. That you can decide right where you are that I'm through serving the master of limitation, and now I'm serving the master of possibility. That simple. You must get to the place where you truly let no external condition trick you into forgetting that I am the truth of your being. When I was sitting in this person's home, sitting at the dining table, the external condition tricked me. And I'm hearing these insults. I'm trying to see, is there anything that I need to take out of this? Is there anything good that can come from this? And I'm in that space of just what feels like attack. And truly what saves me is that I have an evening routine. And my evening routine is I just don't just go to bed. I write down what was great about the day. I write down what my lessons were from the day. I do a whole thing on forgiveness, and then I read something positive. I have an evening routine. What saves me is the evening routine, because it meant that I could catch that energy and begin to do something with it. And so the trick lasted for as long as it took me to get home. Let no external condition trick you into forgetting that I am is the truth of your being. Let no external condition trick you into believing or into forgetting that I am is the truth of your being. I've got a comment. Yvonne says, I experienced that feeling only once without guidance from a live person. It was something I read and followed. It was a beautiful sensation, but I haven't been able to experience it again yet. You know, just working with that I am, I've never gotten into a whole lot of chanting, but that chant, I am, is universal. It's not just an English thing. That when you hear chanting, cultures that chant, I mean, it's part of their spiritual practice, that you will hear that chant over and over again, that I am. It's very powerful, and it awakens something in you. And I don't know anything about chakras, so I'm not even gonna walk down that road. And Yvonne says, who would attack you? Let me ask them in prayer. Thank you. They're using that I am, it's like you awaken the energy inside of you. And you begin to send a different vibration, not just through your consciousness, but through your body. And so even when you're in the midst of some type of illness or some type of any kind of situation, that you can get a few minutes aside and just, deep breath in. I am. That you'll begin to break up and shift and bring into alignment the energy inside of you. It's a powerful, powerful activity. Phyllis says, remember the role of the ego, and sometimes that ego needs attention. Yes, Lord. Yes. Neville writes, he says, conditions in the world have attained the appearance of giants. And I think about that right now because of what happened with Stephon Clark and some of the, the stuff that's come out about Cambridge Analytica. The random threats that are flying through our, political system across Twitter, that sometimes the problems of the world, the conditions in the world can take on the appearance of giants. And it can make you feel like a helpless grasshopper. This is referencing the story of the Joshua, the spies that were sent into the promised land, and they came back, and 10 of the 12 spies saw themselves as grasshoppers against what they saw as the obstacle to getting into the promised land. And that what you realize is that you cannot be to someone else what you are not first to yourself. You must see yourself as a spiritual giant if you're going to operate as one and elicit that kind of response from other people. Now, this Reverend Della used to always use this example. She would talk about Queen Elizabeth. She said Queen Elizabeth, when she gets ready to sit down, she doesn't even look back because there better be a chair there. And so it is the same with you, that you can develop the level of consciousness where you have every expectation that what is mine is mine. And you can develop that expectation for things that are not now in your consciousness, that are not now in your world. That I expect that there will be enough money to do what I want to do because I'm me. And you can adopt that stance. You can adopt that mental position. And as you adopt that mental position, it begins to be true for you. And so you can be in the midst of extreme poverty, change how you see you and change your experience. And so while everybody else might be going through a poverty experience, you've changed you and changed what you're experiencing. But you can't be it until you're first to someone else, until you're first it to yourself. So when I'm making this deliberate choice, when I'm saying, you know what, you immediately go to forgiveness. When I'm making this choice to go to forgiveness and to drop the state of being insulted, to pick up the state of being appreciated, what's happening is I'm revaluing myself. I'm revaluing myself. You got to get that whatever the insult was, that the manifestations in my life come in because of the state of consciousness that I dwell in. So I'm recognizing that I'm dwelling in a state of consciousness that invites that conversation, that opens the door for it. Doesn't mean I ask to be insulted, but whatever state of consciousness you're in, you begin to attract everything that comes from that state of consciousness. And so what I have the ability to do and what you have the ability to do is to revalue ourselves. And we revalue ourselves by sitting in, inhabiting, being the level of consciousness that we want to move into. We literally revalue ourselves. I've got a question. Constance says, wow, I like that about the queen sitting. No doubt about doing it whatsoever. None. So when I take the attention away from the monster of negative feelings and put that monster back in its place, I make the problem be the helpless grasshopper, and I become the spiritual giant. I am remembering now the truth that shall set me free. And so you can do this for your bills. So let's say that you're sitting in the space where you feel like you don't have enough money, and that the things that are in front of you are just bigger than you. And so you feel like a helpless grasshopper. All you can do is make the minimum payment. That in that space, you can detach from that feeling. And you say, okay, well, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel in charge of my finances. I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel, you keep working with it till you get a word, right? I want to feel positive. I want to feel a sense of achievement. I want whatever that is, right? You literally detach. I am. And you keep detaching until you're no longer feeling that sense of helplessness. You're no longer sitting in that space of, this is more than I can deal with. When is this going to end? I can't believe I'm here right now. Why is my life looking like all that? You completely detach from that. I am. And when you have gotten to that space of floating, or that sense of just peace, then I am well. And you begin to anchor yourself down to where you want to go. So it's literally, if I rise up, if I be lifted up, I will draw myself to where I want to be. And I'll draw all the things that come with that consciousness. But at first I gotta drop what I don't want. I gotta let go of that part that doesn't serve me. And so you can see that no matter what it is, if it's bills, if it's people that you have difficulty working with, if it's physical conditions that have beset your body, if it's a big goal, I've shared with you guys that I see myself speaking in arenas to, thousands, tens of thousands of people or greater. But I don't consciously know how to get there. I don't know, I don't consciously know how to get there, but I can take myself there through I am. I can begin to attach to the feeling that I expect to have in the finished form. So what does that feel like to be able to deliver good news to tens of thousands of people, to, broadcast in countries around the world? What does that feel like, right? I can begin to sit in that feeling, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of significance, that sense of contribution, that I can begin to sit in that. And by means that I do not know now and don't need to know, the I am of my being will begin to draw to me all the things that I need to begin to move along that path. When you do this, you turn the thing that seems so big into the grasshopper. You made yourself into the spiritual giant. This is what it means to know the truth that shall set you free. This is what it means to know that truth. I've got a comment. It says free. So we got to know the truth. Have you seen yourself as the grasshopper to your problem? Whatever that is. It doesn't have to be a problem in the sense of money or health or whatever. Maybe it's a goal or something that you want to achieve, and maybe you, because of your age, you see yourself as a grasshopper to what it is that you want to do. Before you move to your next task, choose something that you can believe in, something that's worth pouring energy into. And then commit to 30 days of being that person for whom that thing is a reality, whatever that is. And you can use that same technique where you detach from where you are and attach to where you want to go. You detach from where you are and you attach to where you want to go. It's not hard, but it requires persistence. Because remember, where you are, I think it was Phyllis that said the ego wants some attention. The ego is wrapped up in where you are. Your identity is wrapped up in where you are right now. So detaching is, well, it's going to take some doing. It's going to take some doing. Detaching is going to take some doing, meaning that the mind runs according to habit, and the first time you do this, you haven't broken the habit. It is the persistence over time that makes the lasting change. So, any questions? If you are watching this webinar back from after we broadcast, please, if you want to subscribe, you can go to write2revsherry.com, and there's a box there you can put your email address. I don't share email addresses. I email on Thursdays and Fridays. Thursday to remind you about tonight, and Friday to let you know that the video is up and available. Phyllis says it's like the onion with its many layers. Yes. You're constantly peeling back, but you're working with God. You're creating something. Any questions? Any questions? Anything? And feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Just type it in. Any questions? Thank you guys for tonight. Next week, that is chapter 4. Chapter 4 is Whom Seek Ye? Whom Seek Ye? It is on page 26. Page 26. Andrea says, oh, great. She said, am I still seeing out the emails about the hangout? Yes, emails are definitely going out. Constance says, missed the first half, but information received is right on time. Chapter 4 of that book. Yes, chapter 4 of Your Faith is Your Fortune. Chapter 4 of Your Faith is Your Fortune. And the name of the chapter is Whom Seek Ye? Whom Seek Ye? Thank you, Yvonne says, great lesson. Yay. Thank you, thank you. Even with all the crazy distractions that came about. Had to embrace. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a lovely, lovely evening, and I will see you guys in a week. God bless.